We represent the Heritage Foundation. It's the first time they have been a party in a challenge. The actual petitioner themselves,
for the first time, I think it's a history, has actually filed a lawsuit. We are representing you, of course, which we're honored to do. But for you to take that action, and I know this was one of your first actions as president, was a very big move.
When it comes to looking at this administration, which has an unprecedented view of federal power, that the Heritage Foundation is going to stand up for itself, for our colleagues here, and also for the whole movement. I mean, I don't have to tell the two of you, you're the experts here, that what the Biden-Harris administration is doing is not only unconstitutional, it is an unprecedented abuse of federal power.
The challenge here is not, we don't, like this or we don't like that. It's specific. It's the federal government here through the Occupational Safety and Health Administration of all entities, who said they had no authority to do this and certainly doesn't have the wherewithal to do this, would be the vehicle that the Biden administration would choose to implement a policy, a directive, if you will, that is totally unconstitutional.
There are so many threats coming down the pike from this administration if we don't stop this one. In other words, this is not merely about a 6-month vaccine mandate or even the permanent implementation of it. It is about a federal administration that is willing to subsume state power. And by that, guys, even as a conservative, I'm happy that more liberal states like California or Connecticut are able to do the reforms or pass policies that the majority of their residents want. That's the point, that we've got to get back in this country, whether we're liberals or conservatives, to understanding proper federalism.
For you to actually take action in court shows how much of an overreach this really is.
We have never taken an action like this because we believe we are best served, and we're best serving the movement in the country by being behind the scenes. Let me just be really clear. I would much prefer that we didn't have to file this lawsuit. I didn't wake up one day and say, oh man, it's a great day to file a lawsuit against the federal government. What I recognized was, and my colleagues recognized, our board unanimously recognized, in spite of that history of not filing lawsuits, is that we had to take a stand for ourselves, for the sacred relationship we have with our employees and their private health information, and most of all, for the future of America. That is not hyperbole, Jay, when I say that.
Oh, right.
The future of America depends upon the Heritage Foundation, the ACLJ, and by the way, we're honored that y'all are our counsel, to take stands on behalf of the proper relationship between the federal government and states, as well as on behalf of all of those rights that, if we go back to the founding of this country, we know that our states, before the federal government, protect.
You put all of this together. I mean, Heritage Foundation never filed a lawsuit in their history. They filed one, which we're representing them on, against the mandate. That tells you something. That, and they came out and they were in favor of the of the vaccine. I mean, they were
actually supporters of the Project Warp Speed and the idea that if you unleash, but as a think tank, though, if you unleash, which they're all about, unleash corporate America, and you take those the bureaucratic restraints off, you can accomplish amazing things. And remember, there was the left at the time that said, no way, you'll never be able to get this done. You can't really do this. This won't be in people's arms for years, if not a decade. So, and yet it was groups like Heritage who were saying, no, that's not the case. If you allow these companies, whether it's the Pfizer's, the Moderna's, I'm not trying to sponsor them, but to do their work and not have to get through all of the red tape, because this is a unique situation.
Right.
Look what our corporations and look what Americans can accomplish.
That is what's so, I think, Andy, one of the takeaways in all of this over the last year and a half of dealing with this was the removal of the barriers resulted in a vaccine being created and other therapeutics in literally, as President Trump used to say, warp speed.
In other words, what I think President Trump did was show that you can amass the resources together in a free society with medical science and so forth and do these things in a tremendously expedited fashion and expedited way.
That's kind of the way the American system was really designed to be.
I think that is true, but I think there's some hiccups on the way, in part because rather than persuading individuals, we have often decided to substitute authoritarianism, which then raises the level of resistance
and distrust.
Yeah. If you do this, take out the vaccine part, that gives a whole new power to the federal government under another one of their bureaucratic branches, this one, OSHA, to start mandating and issuing mandates, not necessarily tied to anything. Just you have to do it if you're an employer, or we fine you, which is not the way that usually federal governments had to operate, even with things like the speed limit. They've had to go back and forth with the states, tie it to some benefit the states receive in this situation. And it's very different than your state and your locality where you choose to live, making decisions at that level.